truck hit something. Not exactly sure of the issue.
What broke? Something up on the surface of it.
It was, I believe, like a clean out for a pressure line that was up on their property that maybe got driven over and it broke it down 5 feet.
And the spraying sewer.
It wasn't like spraying it, but it was coming out of the ground. It wasn't like seeing a movie and seeing the fire hydrant get blown up. But it could have easily, been just what it was going into wasn't pretty. So it ended up having a 30-foot gaping hole just because down 6 feet, sandy, wet condition. Have somebody that didn't have the right equipment doing that, and could have had a 100-foot crater in the ground.
Yeah.
We've seen those before. Outside of that,
I don't understand number 8.
what's basically Cody's taking charges of what we end up doing or what our protocol is for our lateral information program, which is just communicating with patrons.
Has been communication with lateral information program to Mark.
In communication to mark out and send. Marking out is our SCF, so we're marking down.
You're marking stuff in the file or something.
And he's been communicating with homeowners.
Yeah, at times we manage our communication out and then phone calls and dealings back in. And we tend to send out a lot of information during the winter while we can work on that. And then we take all the calls, book them up, and then we can help out when spring and summertime comes in. We're not sending out nearly as much letters because we got a bunch of stuff to deal with, and then we go back into it. Looking at the flow chart on the next thing. Everyone kind of noticed the weather, but we more or less had our spring runoff in January and then it immediately tapered off. So I always look at it as with our plant as a 400,000 gallon a day. If you do 400,000 times 30, it's 12 million gallons. So at our plant's theoretical capacity of 400,000, my mental goal is we're always keeping it under 12 million. Worst case scenario, we're staying there. Everything lower than that means we have extra capacity for it across the year. So just arbitrary goals to try to hit or stay within we're on the right path.
With the work going on at S&W there, the sewer system with what's standing there is all fine. It's repaired except with what we want, correct? Or are they putting in any new lines there with what don't they got standing?
They're not putting in new lines. The 3 existing trailers that were on the east, south side, however that is, on 4th Street was designed to basically remove that as part of their agreement.
Okay.
There was no clean outs, no nothing to try to even identify it. We're not going to go climb under those nasty trailers. So part of it was once they demoed it, they've been in communication. We can access the sewer, video it, identify where to cut those off to eliminate bad stuff. So
The stuff is to the south, over by the IPD building there.
there's
There's
nothing in the ground.
There's nothing in the ground there.
There's no
Do you have
bottom.
any word on what they're putting in there?
I've had plans. They proposed I'll end up getting the plans and sharing them with you guys. But they have kind of a fancy little, if you can call it fancy, kind of little home, not a trailer park, but
A tiny home development?
kind of a tiny home development. Kind of
That's the one that had to go up there off Division Street.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's rather than trailers, it's tinier homes. So it's going to kind of be in the same configuration as like a trailer park, but they're tiny homes.
And would they run that white line out to 4th Street or right out to the highway?
There's no sewer on the highway there, so where it comes to the west side of the property, it then goes down along between the properties. So they'll have to develop up and design a new lateral that connects everything in clean and right. So it'll be only pipe.
All right.
Outside of that, nope.
All right, anything else on board? All right, and Charlotte's gonna be here in 5 minutes, so updating the progress of the website.
It is pretty much live. We were doing the last few checks for spelling, any issues that we had with anything, and then give him just the final, it's okay for what's going on. I think we had just a couple little spelling lists that we found. We are missing photos from a few of you.
Gotta get in my high school yearbook.
They need color photos.
I was in blackface.
But they pretty much, we did have somebody actually use the single-family resident application offline.
Oh, really?
So there were a couple things we noticed on there that it was not printing like the board signatures all on the same page. So we just go in and let it know that, hey, we need to see if we can move that up so the
Reformat.
signatures stay on the same page. But it worked out really well with the office closed. They're gonna send us a check, but they went online, they filled it all out and emailed it to us, and that was pretty cool to see that it worked. We've had a couple of questions off the website, and it emails the questions to us, so I could respond to them fairly quickly. It's basically letting us do some things that with people not here locally and with us being close to the public. The only question we have is how the identity theft is going to work. With that, the whole point of that is identifying the person that's filling out that paperwork. So we've only put PDFs online. City of Sandpoint is letting theirs be filled out online. So I'm not sure that I'm that comfortable with that covers identifying the person filling out the paperwork, at least, and with my understanding of what the rules were that came down through Federal Trade Commission.
Well, if they fill out the paperwork and send you a PDF of it, when they come in to pay, we could require a request that their final thing be in the office with an
Did
ID.
they not,
Because they can do the same thing physically, they can fill it out and stop by here and submit it, right? Do you require an ID for that?
If they submit it here, they have to bring a photo ID. If they're mailing it in, they're supposed to get a notary of the signature, and the notary
Oh.
has to see the ID. So at some point, everybody's seeing ID and verifying that, yeah, you are the person filling this out. So we do have it online. They can print them off in PDF. We're just not allowing them to be fillable on PDF at this time. So we're going to kind of look at that, see if that's an option. There's a few other pieces of paper forms that we're debating whether or not we're going to put online as fillable forms, because each one of those is a page. So we're looking at whether or not those other two forms are do we need them online to be fillable, or is it just easier to give them in PDFs and then they can print them off and send them in? So there's a few that we're looking at to put on. But at this point, today's a trial of putting this live video feed onto the website. Larry's wife Diane was supposed to look at that for us and see how that works for her to look at it. So we'll get an idea of how well that works. But it works really good. We can also stream it to Facebook and YouTube. We have a YouTube channel so that we can put it there. And then even for people who can't be here or out of state or out of town but want to see what's happening with the meetings would always be available. Or we can record. This actually records to the PC. So we could put it on afterwards if we needed to, if we get past this state order of public meeting requirements here right now.
everything that comes out of our mouths is recorded?
Oh, by the way, this is streaming live. But this is streaming live, so we have no way to edit anything.
Wow.
We use that. Today is a necessity.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen by May's meeting, but this is an option for us now to be able to do with our website.
All right, rules and, so basically the website is basically 99% done, other than a couple of tweaks.
Couple of
Our
tweaks.
standard, and Josh has helped us get this ready for website compatible for that.
Yeah, we got it all. Actually, went through and did Zoom. He walked me through some other things, and we talked on the phone, and we got it so he could embed it and have it run. I don't know if any of you went to the website and looked. It was running a countdown clock. Join the April meeting live, and it ran a countdown clock. So now it should be actually streaming the video of the meeting to the website. So
All right, rules and regulations, we have entertained a motion to table that to the next meeting, and we'll all take our copy home with us.
Second.
Okay, who moved?
I don't want to just write one down. All right, district modified hours. Do we vote there? Oh, yeah, all in favor, say aye. Actually, that's what we don't want to live stream this, everyone. Modified hours? No one there?
Basically, it's, at this point, the state order is running through April 30th. So we're, as far as I understand, we're sticking with our modified hours through April 30th. At that point, if they don't lift the order at April 30th, does the board want to maintain through middle of May?
Whatever the state says.
Whatever the state
We're
says,
not
so
doing
keep our,
anything different than
okay, so keep our modified hours as long as the state's suggesting.
that. Yes.
Okay.
Are you guys gonna do the separation duty?
Yep.
Thank you.
What we are doing is split shifting it without gap in between. And filling the split to the point where we put in more hours, we just start earlier. So we got up to 6, 7, 8 hours without really have to. It is getting busier and busier. And there's more that we gotta get out there, so everybody here, keep it going. Thank you.
All right, under new business, resolution 04-2020, which is soil on cell phones. That's in the FYI section. Are these being destroyed or sold or both?
Probably both. Some of them are old enough. I was concerned because Laura's phone was dying there, and we figured she could probably buy one of the older district cell phones to make sure that she had a phone, especially right now while we're working split shifts. It's important for me to be able to get a hold of her at home. So you figured last time I think we were selling for like $10. I don't know how many we have in there.
It's great.
There's
Right
just
now.
3 older cell phones. The district doesn't normally incur a cost for the cell phones because we get the last year's model. So normally they cost us either 0 to 99 cents. So we've been pretty lucky so far being able to get them really cheap.
All right, motion to suspend the reading of resolution number 04-2020.
So move. Second.
I'll move in Larry second, all in favor, say aye. And then a motion to adopt resolution.
And you
Roll
go
call.
Well, for adopting, we do, or just suspend the reading of both.
Both.
All right, good.
Eric. Bob.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
Cliff.
And a motion to adopt resolution number 04-2020. Eric, Bob seconded.
Roll call. Eric.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
Cliff.
Hi,
Hi, everyone. So I wanted to chat with you a little bit about where we are with the facilities plan. We did a facilities plan back in 2007 that identified submissions of the plan, and one of the big unknowns was what your discharge permit was going to be like. You've gotten your new discharge permit and know that it's going to have some implications, and what's due in June is the update to that facilities plan. We've been working towards that facilities plan, and we're making some progress on it, and some things have to happen between now and then that might not be able to happen because of the social distancing. We were supposed to have, so my plan was next month's meeting was to have more of a workshop where we sit down and we chat about the nuts and bolts of where we are, and then after that, sometime towards the end of the month, we have an open house where it's presented to the public, and then it's wrapped up with our recommendations, and then it's submitted to DEQ. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. There are some, we have some tools to postpone that if we just can't make it work, or we really want to get together and have a big public open house. We'll have to just wait until that's done.
Is DEQ recognizing district's inability to do some of these things with
Yes.
that deadline, so they're willing to let us?
So I've chatted with Dan Redline, one of the manager down there. He's given me some, but he's acknowledged that the DEQ has acknowledged that there are issues doing some of these things. But, you know, you are under that 10-year deadline, and we don't want to take too much time for this to happen, unless we can push the 10-year deadline off. If we can push that off a year, and then do this, wrap this up in public comments, and that was something that we would do. We don't have a lot of time to wait on this until you know, the coronavirus thing goes away, because we're still under that 10-year deadline.
Yeah.
But so what I wanted to do is just give you, I boiled down a 100-page document into 7 pages of information that you would need to know. And of course, it starts out with why we're doing this. And we're doing this because of the new permit. We talk about the permit as being so onerous that there's no technology that will allow you to discharge during the summer months into the Boyer Slough. And in addition to that, the rest of the year, you have nitrogen limitations to discharge into the Boyer Slough. So to discharge anywhere out there, you're going to need a mechanical plant or some significant improvements to your existing facilities, which I've outlined. And then, of course, the other option that we have on the table is this outfall into the lake, which we still won't know if it's required. What I'm hoping is that if you have a plan, the plan is something like, you know, it has these 5 elements in common, so you'll do that. And then once you do that, then when the lake study is finished, then the lake study does it go, then you build the outfall. So we want to chat just real briefly about some of the key points in addition to what I mentioned. So the permit is what's driving all of this, and that was chapter 4. Discuss the permit. No technologies available to do that. And we talked a little bit about the lake outfall and why we think we can do that, because your load's out there anyway. The water quality is meeting goals. So with your load out there meeting goals, you should be able to move your discharge. Could be such a thing as that you'd be able to move your discharge out there, but still not be able to discharge in the summer months, which would still save you the cost of a mechanical plant if you can go to the land application site in the summer and then the lake in the winter. You'd still be probably money ahead on that. And then eventually, you know, maybe build a mechanical plant for year-round treatment, but that's a cost you should be able to postpone for maybe several years.
Right.
And then the next important thing are the flows and loads projections. It talks about how rapidly you've been growing over the past 10 years or so. And you're growing just under 2%. So I projected future growth at around 2%, which is pretty common for this area. So it's a bit high for long-term growth. But because of your flows today and the difference in you know, 1.9% to 2.2% is probably not that much. When you go to build a plant, it's going to be, you know, you're not going to build it right to the nut. You're going to build it right to whatever we have off the shelf. So it'll be a little, you know, your plant, you're going to need a 350,000 gallon day average daily flow plant. We're probably going to build something between 0.5 and 0.6 MGD. That's just the way it happens. But the key there is that you're not going to grow up some crazy number like 5%, which is what we were predicting in 2007 when things were going under bonkers around here. Projected a really high growth rate. What that means is that your land application site at the end of the planning period is going to be able to manage your summertime flow at that flow rate. But it's going to be critical to remember that when you hit about 400,000 gallons a day, because you're at the end of the planning period, you should be close to 350,000 gallons a day. When you hit 400,000 gallons a day, you have to make a decision. What do you do then? Because that next person that joins is going to need more acres of land. So that's one of the limitations of this alternative too, is that when if you pick that one, it's a low cost one, but you're limited to the growth. The next phase of that's going to be really expensive.
So remind me, we may have covered this previously, but when we're talking about a mechanical plant, once you have that structure in place and that process established, that's how we treat it. We have mechanical plants in place. Is it just a matter of add capacity by just adding a unit onto that mechanical plant? You know, you need 100,000 gallons a day, so you just build that next unit for it, and you just expand capacity by just expanding the plant itself, or in order to gain that capacity, do you have to up your treatment process?
No, in general, you add unit processes like you tack another unit process on. So you might build half, and then you might build one, and then you mirror it to double your capacity. And actually, Tanner and I will have to sit down and talk if we go to design a mechanical plant, is how what kind of redundancies does he want? Does he want everything in one shoot match, or does he want 3 trains? So he can handle peak flows with 2 of the trains off and 1 down for maintenance. And then when you go to build more, you just keep doubling, you just keep adding those trains to increase the capacity. It gets more expensive for those alternatives, but it gives you some redundancies and reliability. And what it comes down to, we'll go visit these things to see what they look like and pick some. And when that happens, if I can find one in Maui to go to. But in general, there's the technologies around, except for some of the package plants, which will kick around a little bit more. Most of those are in California and in New Mexico and places like that. They're a little farther away.
Okay.
But I believe I asked you on a couple meetings ago that if the growth rate with 2% was okay, and you thought that it was. So we go to chapter 7 now. We jump ahead to wastewater treatment improvement alternatives. And here I've just listed the ones that we're considering. Number 1 is the do nothing alternative. Of course, we are required by DEQ regulations to say what the do nothing alternative is. And of course, if you do nothing, you'll be violating your period at the end of the compliance schedule and be subject to governmental takeover and fines and things like that. Number 1, the second alternative is the land application without a surface water discharge. So this is a 100% land application. In the wintertime, you store the flow, and then you store it in big lagoons, and then you land apply it in the summertime. This would take a tremendous amount of storage. I think you would have to build 90 million gallons of additional storage and buy about 360 acres of additional land for irrigation.
How many acres?
360 or so. The details are, I've cut the details, the nuanced details. You'll get the pleasure of reading that.
At some point.
Yeah, and that's because around here, we do a lot of dry land farming. The cropland around here doesn't really require a lot of irrigation. You see Woods Farms out there, it's 4 ton an acre without a crop irrigation, which is why you're irrigating poplar trees. Now it will be uptaken, but you just, instead of getting like the 47 inches of irrigation that you would get down in, say, Kennewick or something like that, you only get 18 to 22 inches of it. So that's why you need so many acres. It's not a good alternative. Number 3, the Boyer Slough discharge and critical season land application. So that's just kind of you bulletproof what you're doing right now. Right now, you're land applying in the critical season and discharging the Boyer Slough in the non-growing season. So you'd optimize your the additional 80 acres that you had out there to do land application on. You would bring that up to speed, and then it's not a standalone because you still have that trouble of discharging nitrogen to the slough in the wintertime. So you'd have to build a unit processes on the end of this to nitrify and denitrify the effluent. So you're looking at a big chunk of money there because you have to optimize your land application site and build the last half of the mechanical treatment. Mm-hmm. Option 4, so in addition to this Boyer Slough discharge, I have what I just described was option A, was upgrading the lagoon treatment plant, and then you have 2 mechanical treatment plant options of a oxidation ditch and a membrane biological reactor. It's just they're both mechanical plants. Membrane, this has a physical membrane to filter the effluent out. And the oxidation ditch, your mixed liquor, the bacteria that you use to treat the effluent goes to a settling tank, and that settles it out and you recycle it out. The costs on those 2 technologies are getting close to being about the same. One's a little bit more expensive, but it's a little more robust. So when we evaluate your preferred alternative, you would have to sit down and think, what do I want, reliability or less cost, and weigh these things and then you pick.
Is Post Falls the ditch one and Coeur d'Alene's the membrane?
Yeah. Well, Post Falls and Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board both have oxidation ditches. Coeur d'Alene does have membranes, but I believe they're tertiary membranes specifically designed to lose phosphorus. Liberty Lake.
Right, the new one there.
Yes, and Spokane Valley both have membranes. And at most package plants that we would end up getting, if you buy our package plant, those would be membrane package plants as well. What's good about membranes is you can get more bacteria in the same cubic foot of volume to eat the food. So you can bring the mixed liquor up from 2,500 milligrams per liter up to 8,000, so that they shrink down in size. and frankly, I'm pretty excited about some of the package plant options that are out there. The prices of those are really coming down quite a bit. And that's what's going to be critical to go see, is that they get kind of a bad reputation for being, used car salesman. Or salesman comes up and buys something that you end up having to pay a lot for, because every nut and bolt that breaks, you have to buy it from the vendor. But they're not doing that so much anymore just because of competition. So you can go look at these things and you can recognize, okay, that's a valve that's made by this company. So once you buy the thing from them, you're not tied to them.
And how often do the membranes have to be replaced, and are they really expensive?
They are kind of expensive to replace. So Dover, for example, they're protected. The membranes have to be replaced every 10 years, and they're on like about 12 or 15. 12, but they're getting more life out of them than they thought they would. Depends on how hard they're used and what their loading is. But generally, we figure every 10 years they have to be replaced. The latest technology out there, though, are ceramic membranes, and you don't have to push those as hard because the pore spaces are a little bigger. So bacteria is 1 micron. And most of the membranes that first came out were 0.04 microns, so they really are filtering them out. The ceramic discs have a bigger hole in them, so you don't have to push them so hard. Last time, of course, they're ceramic, so they're made out of a different kind of material than you know about. But those we've been studying a little bit, and a package plant could be a really inexpensive option, especially if this stimulus money, in the summer, if it hits to stimulate the economy, we can practically say with very little effort that we are ready to build, shovel ready with a package plant, because all we need is a couple of lines drawn on a page out here to say water in, water out, package plant, vendor supply, and we're good to go. And that could be we'll definitely keep our eye out on those type of opportunities, and we'll be pushing those if they come down. While I'm on that subject of the stimulus money, the other option would be is the connectivity between here and Sandpoint. One of the drivers of not wanting regionalization to happen is because of the cost to connect. It's a huge expense just to get the two to join up. But if we could get some kind of a grant to do that, then I think there'd be a lot of good options on the table for that regional system. Sandpoint's still studying it. They were funded for that study, so they'll be studying it. And then the lake outfall. So the lake outfall is, of course, it's in theory, we would be able to take the effluent that you're discharging right now and discharge it into the lake without any kind of a treatment process. You would be able to build an outfall to a point where our lake study is showing that we won't have a negative impact. And if we can do that, then that would be really nice. We would build the outfall, and then in a few years after that, we would fund the mechanical plant, because as you discharge, if your flow doubles, the concentrations in the water have to cut in half until you meet water quality standards. So eventually you would build a mechanical plant, but the nice thing about that is you might be able to phase it in. The lake study, like we said, is showing some promise, and we're kicking off the next phase of that maybe not this month. We talked about pushing it off a month. So. And then, of course, the fifth option is that regionalization or contract for service with Sandpoint. Nobody really knows how that is going to look, but we are looking at it, and we're kicking around different ideas, whether that's the district is paying for a portion of the expansion, and then you would own that expansion. And if you own that, then you wouldn't have to pay a connection fees for it. You might only have to pay the operational costs. Or there's just if Sandpoint takes care of some of the I&I and they have extra capacity, then they charge you a fee to connect or for that service, and then you're off. But the key there is that you come to some kind of an agreement that we can all work on. Now we get to the last little bit where we've got a draft costs lined out here. And you can run through some of the alternatives from 2 to 5 and look at some of the different components that make up the overall cost. So you know a little bit about how we got to these points. So for example, 100% land application, you get a control building, rebuild the lagoons, rebuild the storage lagoon, expand the land application site, and add more acres, because 100% land application is, you got to go out and buy a bunch of land, and now you get to some of those high prices to do that. But you can see how the prices lay out for each alternative.
So these are assuming you're able to discharge into Boyer Slough.
Not, alternative 2 does not. Alternative 2 is 100% land.
100%. So all the others assume you can discharge.
You can discharge to Boyer Slough.
And if you can't, then those go up significantly.
Yes, except the lake outfall, alternative 4
Yep.
is the
Yeah,
lake outfall.
5.
But alternative 2 and 3 assume you can discharge. Actually, it's alternative 3 is the only one that discharges to Boyer Slough. 3, A, B, and C.
Gotcha.
And it's a seasonal discharge, so you still land apply in the summertime because there's no technology that will allow you to discharge to Boyer Slough in summertime because the concentration of phosphorus allowed is so low you can't meet it. So you have to land apply at that time. Then the mechanical plant is so you can meet the ammonia and nitrite limits the rest of the year. And the only way to get around those would be to land apply, discharge to the lake, or go to sandbar. And alternative 4 is the lake outfall, and that's, you're still building a control building, rebuild the storage lagoon so you can flow equalize and you can store flow. Rebuilding those storage lagoons allows you, well, we'd have to think about it if rebuilding the storage lagoon is necessary. We like a storage lagoon so we can flow equalize to the treatment plant. If we go about doing that, maybe that's not necessary. But, and then you can see the cost to go to the regional system. I didn't mean, you don't have to go over these with a fine tooth comb there for you to look at now and kind of soak in, because next month, sometime between now and next month, I'm hoping that you'll be able to get the full report. And the executive summary will have a lot of this information in it that you maybe could sit down and parse through.
Okay.
Then we'll be ready, if we can figure out we want to hold that open house, then we can proceed with the board meeting, and we can move to the open house, and then sometime in June, we can accept the document and get it to the writer. I think the open house might be kind of a critical for the cities of Kootenai and Pend Oreille to participate in, at least their management, because the least expensive alternative, or one of the real expensive ones, is 3A. The lake outfall doesn't seem to pencil, then 3A is the least expensive for the next 20 years, and which is our window of planning. But if we wanted to look out, say, 30 years, when you start bumping up against that 400,000, that's going to be that growth beyond that point is going to be very difficult, because those people's connection fees and monthly rates are going to be substantially different than the existing ones, because you're going to have to go out and probably find another 200 acres somewhere that you can irrigate on summer months.
Now, are you talking in an open house, like I'm thinking open house, where we have information here and the public coming in to see what it is we're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have to have a public meeting, and sometimes those meetings are very well attended and could be kind of contentious. Other times I sit there for 3 hours and nobody comes because the mayor of Regan's just gone around and talked to everybody now. Nobody bothers to come because they all know. In this case, there might be a strong, inclination to do a different alternative because of that next planning phase might be a little more expensive.
Okay.
But that's, or at least it would lay the groundwork for starting to save money, to know that, okay, in 20 years from now, or when we hit 400,000 gallons a day in the average daily flow, we are going to need this. And then there's no reason now you can't start banking money for that, if that's the way you decide to fund it. If you decide to fund it entirely by connection fees, that first one's going to be a lot. Because I mean, that's, the future growth is expected to fund it all.
Yeah.
And if you're growing very slowly, just, it's gonna be difficult to fund it unless you rely on the existing patrons to fund it, and a lot of people don't like that. So, because the existing patrons have it. They have their little piece of pie, and
So can you then forecast like any new subdivision, let's pick on the one down by Elks. Like, all right, here's our current fees, but you know, you're a whole new subdivision, your monthly fee is this. The other district members is $50, yours $70.
Yep.
We could do that right now.
I think you could. There, because you guys are a district, and you can have sub-districts that have different rates, and it's all, you could expand, your boundary doesn't have to be contiguous. You could go down to Trestle Creek and annex them. And if they pay for it, everything, and they deliver the water to you, you can decide to treat it. But if the cost to provide that service. can
Right,
be-
so a large subdivision comes in within our footprint, they can have a higher monthly.
Now, there's going to be legal, discussions about that. Have they been paying into anything? Have they bought any connections or something, anything like that? Because if you want to do that right now, you can just raise rates, and then everybody that comes in after all these existing patrons would pay that higher fee. But if you have determined that it costs more to serve that entity because you had to build a lift station or something like that, you can treat it. You can charge it more. Now, you'd certainly have to justify it.
Right.
You have to show that it does
Well, in
cost.
that situation, we might have some infrastructure that we have to improve upon anyway. To cover our costs.
Yes. Yeah, if you have to upsize a line or something like that, just because of that development, then you probably justify it in charging them more. And that could be, you could decide that a spatial connection fee for this subdivision is this. But you certainly have to lay all the groundwork for that, or have lawyers knocking on your door.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right, anything else?
That's it.
Well, the numbers make you feel better than what they were before, but they're
Still high.
it is what it is.
Yeah, and so
The
these
best option is the lake alpha.
the lake outfall gives you the most surety over the long run, I think. You can build a really high-end plant and discharge less waste, less pollutants than you are now for years to come.
Mhm.
And you might be able to eliminate the land application side and the maintenance and stuff that comes with that, if you can get it. But we'll keep the land application side running to make the options more palatable. And if there's no technical reason for them to force you to land apply in the summertime, you can decide maybe you just want to cease operating until you need it again. Because there could be a day when you do need it again. These regulations into bodies of water are quite unknown.
Yeah.
So, and I think if we could get, you see that one, the really big one, the Force Main to Sandpoint, the $11.3 million one, if we could get that 80% funded through a grant, then that's the one that makes sense. So that's it. So there's going to be a lot of activity on this in the next couple of months. And if we just can't make anything work, then we'll push off until this whole fiasco is over.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the work. I appreciate the summary too. It's really well done.
It's real good.
All right, budget hearing date.
So our annual budget hearing, which is usually held at the end of August, we have to supply that date to the county by the end of this month. So we need 2 workshop dates, probably June and July. Or we could do like we did last year, we did one in July and we just did everything all in that 2 hours, if you're more comfortable doing that. And what we ended up doing last year was getting the budget hearing date set, and then we had a pre-meeting, a meeting before our regular meeting, just to pre-approve the budget for publication, so that so I had time to publish it. And then we had our regular meeting, and at the end of August, we had our public hearing, which would do budgeting and rates all at the same time. So I think
if memory serves, we had a couple of like the meeting prior to our budget workshop, you presented basically kind of what you guys were looking at for a budget. I remember it was just in a normal business meeting like this, and we were able to look it over and say, yeah, that looks like the right direction, go, and next month we'll go after it. I think we did that last year. Didn't we?
Yeah, because we couldn't, we had issues, so we didn't get a June meeting, our June budget workshop, but we could do that in June. Give you an idea of what we were looking at, and then in July, do the big 2-hour budget workshop. Okay,
So you need a date in July, and our meeting is on the 13th, so sometime before that.
No, actually, the July meeting would be the budget workshop would be the week after normally the July meeting.
And what day of the week works best for everybody? I forget. Tuesdays, we do on Tuesdays or Thursdays? Thursdays?
That's what we've been doing, Thursdays and Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Eric had issues on Wednesday. and
Okay, so we're talking about
sometimes
Thursday the
things on
23rd.
Thursdays, or was it Friday, Cliff? Can you do a budget workshop on Thursdays, or was it Fridays that you had? Give it,
Thursday would be okay.
Thursday would be okay. What is that?
23rd.
July 23rd.
Do you want to set a calendar invite?
Yes.
Thank you.
12 to 2. So that would be a lunch meeting, and we'll just have lunch here. We'll send out kind of these are the options for lunch, and then we'll get an idea what you would like to have in July. Does that work for everybody then? Everybody's good for July 23rd?
Right now, it's something else.
Until July comes up.
Okay, no, you gotta put it in your calendar.
I can't put my calendar until I get a calendar invite.
Okay. Lori,
What'd
will
you
do
say?
that tomorrow.
But yeah,
Lori's
I
gonna
got
put
it.
a calendar invite in
Oh,
for
or send an
tomorrow.
invite out.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so the August, I don't have,
And then we approved everything at the August meeting, and then after that, public hearing on the 26th, 24th.
okay, usually in August, our public meetings, our regular meetings on the 10th, which does not give me,
It's at 2 weeks.
I have to have 2 weeks to
24th.
publish it.
So
Oh, the 25th.
from the 23rd to the 10th.
So which we have to allow time for being in the paper. So usually what we've done is hold a really short meeting, like the 3rd or 4th, for you to pre-approve, to finalize that budget and approve it for publication, which gives me time to get it out in the paper and the paper to print it. The 10th would just be our regular board meeting. And then either the 24th or the 31st is when we have our budget.
Can't have it on 31st, that's every weekend. Isn't it, or is it Labor Day?
No,
weekend?
Labor Day weekend is
Seventh.
the 7th. But you had issues on the 31st, if I remember.
I do, that's my way after.
Okay, so the 24th.
We can bring Lisa.
Okay.
24th works. 3rd and the 24th. is that what you're saying?
Well, we're gonna have we're gonna have the 4th, 10th, and the 31st.
So the 4th would be a real quick meeting just to
Okay.
look at any changes made on the budget, approve it for publication.
And what time would that be?
We can do 5:30, we don't have to do it at 6 unless everybody wants to do it at 6.
5:30 is fine.
Okay. So
That's on the
5
24th.
on the 4th, 5:30 on the 4th. And then the 24th would be the public hearing, which we do normally do. 5:30 would work on that, doesn't have to be normal 6 o'clock. Unless that's an issue for anyone. Okay, so the dates that I have down are July 23rd from 12 to 2 would be the lunch and budget workshop. August 4th is the approval to publish the budget and finalize the budget. August 10th is our normal meeting. August 24th is our public hearing, and both meetings in August are at 5:30, the 4th and the 24th. And then the 10th would be our normal meeting time at 6. Any other concerns or thoughts for those?
And the 4th and 24th are both at 5:30.
Yes.
Yeah.
work. Okay, anything else on the board?
Have an application to
Oh,
sign?
yes, we signed it, Doug, this in.
Oh.
That's it, that's the corner lot there, the cottages, I think, right up there by the,
No, it's the one between my old house and on closest to Whiskey Jack, the greenhouse. The one that-
oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant by the corner, right there in the corner of that Crooked Ear Drive, right? Between the old house, that's not part of that subdivision, and Bergen, Baldwin's Burgers.
No, it's between one more over, just not quite the corner.
Okay. All right.
We did approve.
We signed it, so that's good. We got it here.
You won't find it in a minute, you're looking for it.
Yeah, we need the board approval, verbal board approval. You all signed it, but we need a verbal.
Board approval for the single family residence? Budget hearing dates, we're done.
The single family residence.
Yeah.
The budget hearing dates were just
Okay.
once they, you don't need actual motion and vote.
All fair, say aye. Aye. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Cliff and Larry, and we're all fair, say aye.
All right.
All right.
So what you want to put up are maps and stuff on there. You don't need to have that stream on.
If we need to share screen, then I can put something up here to share and to put up there.